The night after the short program, a single message appeared on Ryuichi Kihara's phone. It was from his mother. It simply read, "You two look like you're at a funeral." There were no words of encouragement, no sympathy, and no advice. Just one light-hearted comment that carried more meaning than anyone could have imagined. In the kiss and cry, both skaters wore expressions of disappointment. They had made mistakes. The scores were lower than expected. There were no smiles, and the atmosphere around them felt painfully heavy. Thousands of fans watched in silence as the pair lowered their heads after returning to the Japanese national championships for the first time in 5 years. After fighting through injuries just to make it back, they had failed to deliver the performance they dreamed of, and the frustration showed clearly on both of their faces. Then that unexpected message arrived. Ryuichi couldn't help but laugh, and Rickuryu read it as well. One simple sentence made both of them realize something important. How had the sport they once loved so much become something that felt so painful? Looking back later, Kihara admitted, "That was the moment I realized the problem was me. I had set my expectations so high that I fell into despair whenever I couldn't reach them. I kept blaming myself." Riku shared the same feeling. She said, "Even though Ryuichi's mother was far away, she still understood exactly what we were going through." Hearing those words from someone who truly understood us meant everything. That night, Riku quietly made a decision before the free skate. "Tomorrow, I'm going to skate with a smile for Ryuichi's mom." Standing beside her, Kihara jokingly replied, "Not for me." Riku burst into laughter. Ryuichi laughed too, and that simple smile became the beginning of everything. Ryuichi Kihara's mother is Suzue Kihara, the woman who first took him to skating rink when he was just 4 years old in Tokai City, H Prefecture. She enrolled him in gymnastics, ballet, and several other activities, but every single time he ran away. The only place he never tried to escape was the ice rink. Suzue often laughs when she tells the story, and even Ryuichi admits, "Skating was the only thing I stuck with." She never forced him, she never pressured him. She simply believed in the son who chose to stay and continued driving him to the rink day after day. Years later, that little boy grew up and formed a pair with a young skater nearly 9 years younger than him, Rickuryu. To Suzue, Riku was never just her son's skating partner. She had always seen her as something much more. From the moment Riku left Japan for Canada as a teenager, Suzue quietly watched over both of them. She didn't only watch their performances on television. She paid attention to their expressions in the kiss and cry, listened carefully to every interview, and even noticed the emotions hidden behind their social media posts. Even from miles away, she understood what they were feeling. That was why she sent that unforgettable message that night. It wasn't meant only for her son. It was meant for both of them. Back in 2019, when Ricuryu left her hometown of Takarazuka in Hyogo Prefecture, she was only 17 years old. She said goodbye to her father Yujiro, her mother Yuriko, and her younger sister Suzu before traveling alone to Canada, where everything, from the language to the culture, was completely unfamiliar. Waiting for her in the quiet town of Oakville, just outside Toronto, was Ryuichi Kihara. At first, Riku stayed with a host family, but every morning Kihara drove to pick her up before taking her to the rink. They trained together, returned home together, and spent nearly every day side by side. Since Riku wasn't comfortable speaking English, Kihara helped with grocery shopping, hospital visits, and countless everyday tasks that made life in a foreign country less overwhelming. There were nights when homesickness became almost unbearable. Sometimes she would simply go for a drive, watching the scenery pass by outside the window until her heart finally felt a little lighter. During the pandemic, when skating rinks were closed, the two spent time playing video games together. They didn't talk about skating, failed performances, or disappointing results. Instead, they escaped into a virtual world, moving game characters across the screen while simply enjoying each other's company. Sometimes, that quiet companionship was exactly what they needed. Even while Riku was living overseas, her mother Yuriko stayed in direct contact with Kihara. She didn't send messages through her daughter. Instead, she spoke to him personally. "I trust you completely, Ryuichi. Be as strict with her as she needs you to be." It wasn't an order. It wasn't a request. It was a mother's way of placing her daughter in the hands of someone she truly trusted. Kihara accepted that responsibility without hesitation. Later, when Riku suffered an injury, he traveled all the way to her family home in Takarazuka to visit her. The house was home to 3 cats, and Kihara happened to be allergic to cats. Even so, he put on a mask and went anyway. As the cats chased him around the house while refusing to become friends with him, Riku couldn't stop laughing. Yuriko witnessed the entire scene. When she thanked him sincerely for making the trip, no one knows exactly what Kihara replied. But from that day forward, Yuriko no longer saw him as just her daughter's skating partner. He had quietly become something much closer to family. They exchanged contact information and began messaging each other from time to time. Meanwhile, Suzue, Kihara, and Rickuryu built a special relationship of their own. In fact, people often joked that the two exchanged more line messages than Ryuichi and his own mother did. While Kihara usually replied with only a few short words, Suzue and Rickuryu could chat endlessly. No one, not even Ryuichi, was allowed to know what they talked about. After all, some conversations are simply between a mother and a daughter. From the moment Suzue truly got to know Rickuryu, her focus was never just on her own son anymore. She genuinely wanted to know how Rickuryu herself was doing. She would ask, "How are you feeling? Are you getting enough rest? Ryuichi isn't causing you too much trouble, is he?" Rickuryu would always laugh before answering. What started as an occasional conversation once a week gradually became a daily routine. While Ryuichi was known for replying with only a few brief messages, Rickuryu and Suzue could chat for hours, and whatever they talked about remained their own little secret. Then came the unforgettable stretch between 2022 and 2023, a season that completely changed Japanese pair skating forever. They captured the Grand Prix final title, claimed the Four Continents Championship, and then conquered the World Championships, completing an unprecedented Grand Slam for a Japanese pairs team. Sometimes Suzue was lucky enough to witness those victories in person, while other times she cheered from in front of the television in Japan. Yuriko experienced the very same emotions. Every time a score flashed across the screen, messages instantly appeared. It didn't matter who sent the first one. Their line conversations simply came alive with short reactions like, "They did it," "I can't believe it," and "Did you see that?" Sometimes a single name was all that needed to be written, because both mothers already understood exactly what the other was feeling. Then came February 17, 2026, at the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. After the pair's short program, Rickuryu and Ryuichi sat in 5th place. The dream of Olympic gold suddenly felt painfully distant. On paper, the gap looked almost impossible to overcome, and even a medal was far from guaranteed. Perhaps Suzue sent another quiet message that evening. No one knows. No one knows what Yuriko discussed with her husband, Yujiro, either, but one thing is certain. In different places, both mothers were facing the same direction, holding on to the same hope. The following day, Rickuryu and Ryuichi stepped onto the ice for the free skate. When their performance ended, they embraced at center ice and refused to let go for nearly 30 seconds. Cameras from around the world captured the emotional moment. International media praised the performance, while fans across Japan watched through tears. Then the scores appeared. Against all expectations, they had done it. They completed an incredible comeback and captured the Olympic gold medal. No one knows what messages were exchanged between Suzue and Yuriko that night. Those conversations were never made public. But only a few weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived at one of their sponsors. The signature at the bottom didn't read Ricuryu Miura's mother or Ryuichi Kihara's mother. Instead, it simply said, "The mothers of Rickuryu." No one knows which mother wrote those words first. Maybe they decided together. Maybe the phrase came naturally without either of them thinking twice. In the end, it didn't matter. Those 4 simple words represented everything they had built together over 7 remarkable years. From the day Rickuryu moved to Canada at just 18 years old, Suzue had cared for her almost as much as she cared for her own son. At the same time, Yuriko entrusted her precious daughter to Ryuichi without hesitation. Long before they truly knew one another, both mothers carried the same worries, offered the same prayers, and shared the same dreams from different parts of Japan. They traveled to competitions together, sat side by side in the stands, enjoyed meals, explored new cities, and slowly created memories that extended far beyond figure skating. Without anyone realizing it, the 4 of them had quietly become one family. No announcement was ever made. There was no special moment when everything changed. By the time anyone noticed, it had already happened. On April 28, 2026, Ryuichi became emotional during his retirement press conference. Rickuryu smiled through the tears and gently teased him, saying, "Come on, don't cry anymore." The room immediately filled with laughter. Then Rickuryu revealed something that surprised everyone. "When Ryuichi retires, I'll retire too. I can't imagine skating with anyone else." Ryuichi smiled and replied, "Then let's retire together." Whether Suzue and Yuriko watched the press conference live or heard about it later, nobody knows. But it's easy to imagine another quiet message appearing between them that evening. Maybe it was only a few words. Maybe it was just a single sticker. They didn't need long conversations anymore. They already understood each other without explanations. Over 7 unforgettable years, their family had quietly grown by one more member, and that family would continue long after competition ended, long after retirement, and long after the medals were put away. The earliest days of Riku and Ryuichi's partnership had been filled with uncertainty. Riku admitted over and over that she was terrified of the lifts. Every time she expressed her fear, Ryuichi gave the exact same answer: "I will never let you fall." It wasn't simply a promise, it was a declaration. The trust between them wasn't built through speeches or dramatic moments. It was earned through endless repetition. They practiced the lifts again and again. There were close calls and difficult days, but Ryuichi never stopped protecting his partner. That unwavering consistency became the foundation of everything they would later achieve. Suzue watched those moments through television broadcasts, online videos, and updates from people around the team whenever she couldn't be there herself. Around that same period, she and Riku began speaking directly through line. She wasn't checking on Ryuichi anymore. She simply wanted to know how Riku was doing. "How are you feeling? Are you getting enough rest?" "Ryuichi isn't giving you too much trouble, is he?" Riku would always answer with a smile. Before long, what had started as weekly conversations turned into daily messages. While Ryuichi often replied with only a few short words, Riku and Suzue continued chatting, and their conversations remained a secret that even Ryuichi wasn't allowed to hear. One story fans especially love is Suzue's homemade strawberry shortcake. Every time Riku returned to Japan, Suzue baked a fresh cake completely from scratch. As a certified baking instructor, she poured genuine care into every dessert she made. Riku loved that cake, and every single time she took a bite, her eyes lit up with excitement as she said, "This is so delicious." Suzue never forgot that expression, so she baked another one. Sometimes the simplest words like "it's delicious" become another way of saying, "Thank you and I love being here." The first message always came from one of them, and the reply followed almost instantly. It was such a simple exchange, yet it continued without interruption for 7 years. Then came February 2026 at the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. After the pair's short program, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara found themselves sitting in 5th place. On paper, the dream of winning Olympic gold looked almost impossible. The numbers were against them, and the gap seemed too large to overcome. No one knows what Suzue texted Riku that night. No one knows what Yuriko said to her husband, Yujiro. But one thing is certain: even from different places, both mothers were looking toward the very same dream. The next day, Riku and Ryuichi stepped onto the ice for the free skate. When the performance ended, they embraced at center ice and refused to let go for nearly 30 seconds. Cameras from around the world captured the unforgettable moment. Then the scores appeared. It was the comeback no one expected. They had done the impossible. They were Olympic champions. No one knows where Yuriko was standing when the final scores were announced. No one knows the expression on Suzue's face at that exact moment, but it's easy to imagine that their line conversation filled with a few simple messages that night. Maybe it was only, "We did it." Maybe it was nothing more than a heart emoji. That was enough. It had always been enough. After returning home, Riku went back to her family in Takarazuka. Later, she revealed that she finally looked at her parents and said, "Thank you for supporting me for the past 20 years. Smiling, she admitted, "I was embarrassed, but I managed to say it properly." No one recorded Yuriko's reaction, but perhaps they didn't need to. Some moments speak louder than words. Ryuichi returned to Tokai City in Aichi Prefecture, where he received a warm welcome from local officials and longtime supporters. Whether Suzue stood quietly among the crowd remains unknown. But perhaps the moment she saw her son return home safely, words were no longer necessary. She had watched every step of his journey. She already understood everything. Then came April 28, 2026, the retirement press conference. Ryuichi couldn't hold back his tears. Riku smiled and gently teased him. "Come on, don't cry anymore." The room immediately filled with laughter. Then Riku shared a decision that touched everyone. "When Ryuichi retires, I'll retire too. I can't skate with anyone else." Without hesitation, Ryuichi replied, "Then let's retire together." Somewhere, Suzue and Yuriko heard those words. Maybe they watched the press conference on television. Maybe they saw it online. Maybe someone forwarded them the video. However they learned about it, another message surely appeared in their line chat soon afterward. No one knows what it said. Once again, one mother sent the first message, and the other replied immediately. That quiet rhythm had never changed. Over those 7 years, another member had quietly joined their family. There had been no official announcement, no ceremony, no paperwork, just 4 simple words written at the bottom of a handwritten letter. The mothers of Rickuryu. From that day forward, nothing was ever quite the same. Even after retirement, even away from the rink, and no matter where life takes them, the bond they created will remain. Because the greatest achievement Ricuryu and Ryuichi Kihara built over 7 unforgettable years wasn't only an Olympic gold medal. It wasn't only championship titles. It wasn't only breathtaking performances. It was something far more meaningful. Without anyone realizing it, 2 mothers living hundreds of miles apart in H and Hyogo slowly became partners on the same journey. That story will never appear in official records. No medal will ever recognize it. Yet every year, in the handwritten signatures on greeting cards and letters, its memory quietly lives on. The mothers of Ricuryu. Those 4 simple words told the story of 7 extraordinary years better than anything else ever could.